3 hours, y'all. 3 hours a day. How would you like to build an incredible real estate business investing 3 hours a day? That's what we're going to talk about today. I have a repeat guest, a repeat visitor. I think this guy's been on the podcast more than anyone. I think this is the third time we've had him on, but we just can't get enough. He's the number one trainer. He just won an award to that effect. So we try to extract, we try to dig out as much information as we can from this incredible individual. Y'all know him. Again, he's been here 3 times. His name is none other than King Knolly Williams, the business healer. Knolly, thank you so much for coming back again and again and again. Now, we just can't get enough, man. You got the number one video out of all of. I mean, we've had Jay Kinder, we've had Brent Gov, we've had Elizabeth Riley. No shade to none of them; they're incredible. But the numbers are the numbers, right? Numbers don't lie. People are eating up your content all over this world. Really, I mean, you're one of the top trainers in the world, and now you've just been recognized. You won an award too, right?
Yes, I did.
Let's start with that.
So I was awarded, and this was something I didn't even know was a thing until I got it. There was no go get votes. It just was awarded, and it was a real blessing. The Instructor of the Year award for EXP University in our what we call our Level Up category, and so that's a big blessing. I love to train, teach, give back. It's just I'm wired for it. I think everybody really is, Tony. Not everybody's discovered that yet because maybe they're so busy, with everything they've got going on in their life that they haven't gone to the giving piece yet. But it's the most fun you'll ever have, and it's the most rewarding as well.
Wow. Love that. Well, congratulations. Obviously well deserved. I think that maybe you didn't know about it or didn't know it was a thing because it was undeniable. It was a shoe-in. There was no competition. It was just like, boom, like give it to Knolly. There's no comp. So congratulations again. And thank you again for coming back. 3 hours a day. Yes. I couldn't believe it. So, we were chatting. I don't even know what we were talking about, something else. And then you're like, hey, by the way, I got this thing coming. And it's like a huge thing that I think is going to be a huge game changer for really anyone, no matter where they're at in their business. And as you know, we like to talk about is brand new agents, and then kind of those mid-tier agents that are starting to see some success, but not really cranking it up. And then those superstar agents that are really looking to leverage, and maybe they have a team and leverage and start really making some serious moves in their business and their lifestyle and their family and their, finances. And we look at it at all three levels. This is a huge game changer for each one of those, because you make a really strong promise, right? You make a really strong promise, and that promise is what exactly?
So the promise is that you could work a lot less and earn a lot more than what you're currently doing. And it's focused on the two big picture priorities. And here's the big promise. The book, and we haven't talked about the book yet, but the whole concept of 3 hours a day is it solves the only two problems that you'll ever have in your business. Really, there are only two problems that real estate agents ever will have, Tony, and any entrepreneur actually will only have these two problems. And the book solves those two problems, and it really solves the second problem even more. So can I elaborate just a little bit on that? Yeah.
The mic is yours. The mic is yours, brother.
So what a lot of entrepreneurs and business leaders don't understand, and this was me, I became an entrepreneur at 12 years old, and I'm 53 now. The last time I actually had a W-2, I was 23, and I actually started working, Tony, from home at the age of 23 years old. So I've been working from home for 30 years. And back then in 93, when I started doing this, I told myself, I said, well, if the president of the United States of America can work from his house, why can't I? And it was something that just sort of stuck with me for the past 30 years I've been doing this. And just like most entrepreneurs, Tony, I equated the number of hours that I work with the income that I made. So if I put in 12 hours, 15 hours, 16 hours, 17 hours, I was going to make more money. And it's the hustle, the grind. And there is some truth to that for a while. But after a certain length of time in business, it no longer holds true. And that's usually within 18 months, 24 months, maybe 3 years of your business. It actually is counterproductive to work more. And so I learned that the hard way. But my first business after turning 23, by the time I was 29, I had made I made $1 million that year. I actually made $2 million that year. I was making $150,000 a month, but I was working all the time. I was working 12, 15, 16 hours a day. And then when I went bankrupt, Tony, from that business and got into real estate 20 years ago, I said, there's got to be a better way. And I discovered that better way. You know, when we equate our, the amount of time that we put in, you know, the hours we put in for the income that we make, we're actually, that's an employee paradigm. That's the way employees operate. And as business owners, sometimes some of us just own a job, you know, instead of owning a business. And when you own a business, it's completely different. You know, the purpose of the business is to serve the needs of the owner. But just real quick, I'll share with you the only two problems that you'll ever have in business. The number one problem is you don't have enough money. And the second problem is you don't have enough time. Those are the only two problems you'll ever have. Now, if you're in retail or something like that, you might have supply chain issues. That's a whole completely different ballgame. That's a little bit harder to control. But the other two are really the only other two problems that a business will ever have. And I think in real estate, we do have supply chain issues from a standpoint of inventory. Sometimes we don't have enough. You know, you can never have, you know, too much actually. But outside of that, and that's pretty easy to solve when you become a listing specialist. You focus on listings. Now you control the inventory. And you're at the front of the line. That really is the game. But outside of that, it's like, okay, I don't have enough money. That's a cash flow problem. And the way you solve that problem is through lead generation. It's carving out, you know, 2 hours a day, 3 hours a day, or even 90 minutes a day, every single day to do lead generation. And then the second problem, if you don't have enough time, that's a leverage problem. Okay, leverage is people, systems, and tools. And so you solve that problem with leverage. So in the book, I'm sharing with everyone how I've done this for over a decade. In just as an example, Tony, in 2008, Austin Business Journal awarded me as the #1 solo producing agent in Austin, Texas, out of over 9,800 agents that year, almost 10,000. My production was #1 as a solo agent. I sold 96 deals through MLS. And I was by myself, and I was working about 3 hours a day. And so, but I did it with a lot of leverage. And so I want to share, you know, how that's even possible. It sounds insane for most people, but it's actually easier than you think.
So again, huge promise, 3 hours a day.
Yes.
How is that even feasible, understandable, possible? And when I heard, and by the way, this is not like a clickbait, you know, kind of thing. That this is legit. I mean, you got a legit publisher for this book that you're putting out about how to work your real estate business 3 hours a day. Tell us about that process, I guess, a little bit. But before we dig in, I know I've got everybody like salivating and like, get to the, we're going to get there.
To the meat of it. Come on.
I promise we're going to get there. But I really want to help everyone understand before we get there, the credibility behind it. This is not like you go to Chat GPT and say, hey, write some content. And then, you know, it spits it out in 30 seconds. You put it out. Hey, I got an ebook. I got a book. Everybody's got a book, right? This is legit. Can you tell us about that process? I mean, who's the publisher? Who's already endorsing this thing?
Yeah. And in fact, I didn't hire a ghostwriter. For my very first book, I hired a ghostwriter, and this is my 7th book. And all the books that I've written since my first one, I didn't hire a ghostwriter. I wrote them myself. The publisher for this is McGraw-Hill. And McGraw-Hill, you know, I grew up with McGraw-Hill books. I know you did too, Tony.
Used to cross it out. I hated that part.
You know, #1 educational publisher in America. And actually, they're one of the top 3 publishers in North America. And when they saw this book, and actually my agent said, look, Knolly, we're going to pitch the idea. This is a big idea. And we're going to pitch it to the top 3 publishers. Probably neither one of them will bite because they just,
it's not their lane.
Yeah, it's not their thing to bite on. You know, usually 100% out of 100%, 10 out of 10 of pitches to them are rejected. And then we've got another 30 publishers we'll send it to. And then after that, we've got this group list of 300. We'll find a publisher, don't worry. But let's try these 3. And right away, when McGraw-Hill saw it, it was a big idea. It was McGraw-Hill, Hay House, and the third biggest one. And they saw it right away. And it is really a big idea. It's a big concept, but there's really a lot of data, a lot of research, a lot of scientific studies behind this, and there's a system behind it. So it's not like, hey, go quit, stop working what you're doing now. No, you can't. This is not an overnight thing. This takes time to get to it. So yeah, that's the publisher, and I methodically wrote this out, and this is my system to do this. And I've taught this before writing it to people in not just the real estate world, but in other industries.
And this is how you got to the point of selling over 100 transactions per year with leverage and still having that freedom. By the way, thank you so much for everyone for checking this out. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. But in that comment box, I want to hear, which one of these two problems are you struggling with? Do you not have enough time, or do you not have enough money? Time or money? Drop that in the chat. In the meanwhile, Knolly's going to go into this a little bit and tell us about how he's able to leverage and how he's able to do this thing 3 hours a week. I'm going to pull up, because I was looking at this blueprint, Knolly, and I mean, this kind of breaks it down for us.
It really does.
Do this.
Yeah, it really does.
Will you walk us through this?
Yeah, so the blueprint I came up with just as a visual to kind of understand the process. The very first one is to hone your superpower. And I go through each one of these is actually a chapter in the book, and there are other chapters as well. But what a lot of people don't realize, Tony, is that you have a unique superpower as an entrepreneur. It's more unique than anyone else. And when you hone your superpower, when you understand what that is, you build that's considered the foundation of your company. And then you build your business on top of your superpower. You have to know what you're strong at and what you suck at or what you're weak at. And you should only focus on your strengths. Okay. Most people only have one or two superpowers, Tony. And when you think about superheroes, albeit they're, made up, but they're based on, a lot of psychology and real human interaction. There are certain superheroes for certain things. Like if I have a stealth mission, I'm not going to send the Incredible Hulk, because there's nothing stealthy about him. He all he knows how to do is smash. And break them. So I'm going to send in one of my more stealthy, like Atom Man or Ant Man, that guy that can make himself real small. I'm going to send that guy in through the keyhole and recover information. Now, if I need something smashed up, I'm sending the Hulk. And the reality is, it doesn't matter if you're the Hulk or you're the other guy. It doesn't matter. You're going to have a big weakness. Like if you're Superman, you maybe you can leap a tall building, but at the same time, kryptonite will you're done. Okay. So you have to understand where you are really strong and just focus. And most people, Tony, only have one or two strengths. I've heard it said before that you start with why, and I do believe that to a degree, but I think it goes deeper than that. You have to understand who you are at the core. And the reason I bring this up, Tony, is because most entrepreneurs that I coach, they have no clue who they really are. They've never done the work. They haven't done the Strengths Finder. Maybe they've done the DISC, but haven't really followed it to their model. They haven't enveloped their whole career around who they are. Maybe they haven't done the Genius Test or the Passion Test, Human Design, and many of the others, so that you really know, okay, this is who I am, and I'm going to fashion my career around that. And that's what really makes it fun and easy.
Love it. Yeah. And how does that bleed into evaluating your business?
Yeah. So once you have honed your superpower and you understand what your lane is, then you move on to step 2, which is evaluating your business. And we're going to look there at the 5 core areas of your business, sales, and then marketing, and then operations, and so on. And then with those 5 areas, you're going to rate yourself. You're going to go, are you red, green, or yellow in those areas?
Right.
And delivery and finance. So it's marketing, sales, operations, delivery, and finance, or delivery, operations, and finance, I should say, in that order. And so then that goes to over to balancing your business. What most people don't realize, Tony, is that there are 8 key pillars to your business that are very integral to your success. Okay. There's mindset is the overarching theme. That's number 1.
That's the foundation. Yeah,
that's the foundation. And then there's activities, which is like, there are only a couple of activities that even count. We'll talk about that. So it's mindset, activities, people, systems, and tools. Okay. And then it's your money, accountability, and training. Those are the 8 pillars. And money is really the numbers of your business. The accountability is who are you holding yourself accountable to? Because you're going to accomplish so much more with accountability than you will without it.
Yeah.
And then training, all of you, right now you're here on the podcast. You can check that off. You're an information seeker. Maybe you're a lifelong learner, but we get our training through podcasts. We get it through seminars, through going on in EXP world and attending the classes that are put on pretty much by Icon agents, all of which are selling 30, 40, 50 homes or more a year. And then there's, reading books and so on of how we get our, get the training piece in. So those are the 8 pillars. And then I also talk about the 4 bodies. We don't have to go too down the rabbit hole with that, but the 4 bodies, every individual has 4 bodies. We have a spiritual body, a mental body, a physical body, and an emotional body. And how are you feeding all 4 of those bodies? So that's how you balance your business. And when you look at it, Tony, when you look at those 8 pillars, it's the difference between a franchise, running your business like a franchise, or running it like a mom and pop. Okay. So wow. There's a reason why 95% of Chick-fil-A restaurants succeed, and why less than 20% of mom and pop chicken joints like Jack's Chicken Shack, really the truth of the matter, only 20% of those organizations last after 5 years. 80% of them are gone, whereas 95% of Chick-fil-A's are successful. And it's really because of those 8 pillars, Tony, that you have in your business. So I teach you what they are and how to incorporate them. And then you go into delegating your business. Okay. And by the way, I teach you in the book how to delegate for free. A lot of people come to me, they're like, well, I can't afford to hire anybody. I want you to change that question. Instead of making a statement, which is an affirmation, I can't afford to hire anyone. Ask yourself, how can I afford to hire someone? How can I afford that? And what I do, Tony, it's a whole mind shift, and it really works. So there's a number of ways that I teach you how to do it, but just an overarching theme, like if I'm going to hire a VA, Tony, and I'm going to pay that person $1,200 a month, what I'm going to do with my VA, I'll give you an example. So I have a VA that's a video editor. He's great at video editing. He's great at graphics and a couple other things. And so I basically farm him out. Okay. And I have a video club where you pay $300 a month, and my guy will do your video editing for you. He'll do a certain number of videos per month, way cheaper than what you could go on Fiverr or wherever else and get them. And as long as we have 5 people in that queue, and we're bringing in $1,500 a month, where he's basically got a side business that he's in control of. And I don't want him spending more than 10 to 15% of his daily time on that business. And then all the rest of his time he spends for me, Tony. And so he's bringing in $1,500 a month. I'm paying him $1,200. You see what I'm saying? So
right.
There's always going to be a creative way. And I give you several creative ways that you can have. Like if you have a contract to close person and you're paying that person $1,000 a month, maybe they're from the Philippines or wherever. Are there other agents that person could be doing contract to close for $300 a month or $250 a month? You get 4 people like that. Now your VA is paid for. So I teach you how to do that. And then from delegate your business, step 5 is to systematize your business. Now there is a methodology to how you systematize your business. And at the end of it, you're going to end up with what I call a team operations Bible. What that means is if you're injured and you're out of the business for a month, or you decide to go to Italy for a month, it doesn't matter. Your team operations Bible is going to be a leave behind, and your business should be able to operate for a month or 2 with or without you. And if you're not currently at that point, I'm going to help you get there. That's in this chapter where I call it systematize your business. Now, a lot of people, Tony, I'm going to hand the mic back to you before we complete the rest of this. But a lot of people, Tony, they want to systematize their business before they delegate it. And I understand the thinking behind that, but it's completely backward. What you do is you delegate your business. And by the way, you always hire the opposite of you. That's a whole nother thing. People, I hired somebody just like me, the same disc. Well, now we got 2 people. Yeah. Now we have 2 people not getting anything done.
Yeah.
So you hire the opposite of you. And so that person is going to create your team operations Bible, and they're going to systematize your business. And I teach you how to have them do that for you, because you could go 11 years and maybe never actually get to the point where you actually systematize your business to hire someone for it.
Right.
And I want to eliminate that. Any questions around that?
No, and I think that that's where a lot of entrepreneurs, particularly real estate agents, mess up.
Yeah.
Very high D, a lot of times high I's, and I think that it's very difficult to sit that person down and say, "Hey, you need to work on your systems. You need to work on your manuals." I love, I mean, everything you've talked about here. There's a couple of E-myths. If you look the book E-myth, Michael, he's got. Yep, Gerber's got a bunch of them, but they're all kind of along those same lines, and it's about systematizing that business so that it can operate without you. Because if you build a business that's dependent on you, then you're never going to get to a point where you're able to do a 3-hour a day job, or ideally have that business the machine that fixes the machine, which is where we ultimately want to be. So I love everything we're talking about here. So, but I can hear, I have this unique gift that I've developed where I can hear people through the screen.
Yeah.
And what I can hear it. I can hear it. You don't have to drop it in the chat. You can, but you don't have to drop it in the chat. So what I'm hearing them say is, man, you've already spent more than 3 hours on this. I mean, each one of these steps could take 3 hours. When do we get to the point now where we can invest this promise that you made of 3 hours a day? And build that rocky real estate business.
Let me back up and share with you how it came to me. So when I got into real estate, I vowed that I was not going to work the way I worked in the past, putting in the 12 to 15 hour days. And I really thought that it was unnecessary. And I think I was a little bit burnout and I was disillusioned, Tony, because here I was in my 20s making millions of dollars. And I thought that it would always be that way. But and I was in the music industry at that point. Right. And when the industry changed, I basically, my company went out of business, and because I didn't pivot or shift with the market. And so when I got into real estate, I was about 8 months into the business, or maybe even less than that, about 5 or 6 months in, and I was overwhelmed. I don't know if you listening right now, you've ever been at a point where you're just overwhelmed with so much. And it's like, and this is how feast or famine happens, Tony, is basically you go out there and you generate a lot of leads. And then you're like, shoot, I got all this business.
I gotta work these.
I gotta work that business.
Yep.
And then you work your business, and you work. And then you got your closings up and you lined up, you're lined with cash, and you're like, well, shoot, I don't have any more. Then you got to go back. And that's what we call feast or famine. And unfortunately, Tony, most of our agents have just gotten out of the rat race and onto the hamster wheel. Okay. And so they basically traded one job. They've traded working at a job to owning a job. And that was me. I was in the same boat that you might be in right now. And so I said, I've got to figure this out. So what I did, and I have a better process for this, but how I first came about, my first iteration was I just took out a yellow sheet of paper, like a big sheet notepad, and I wrote down every single thing that I do on a listing, because I started with listings from the beginning. And lo and behold, there was 46 different tasks that happened on a listing. The first task was to generate the lead. And then step number 40 was to close the transaction. And then there's 6 steps that happen after the closing. And I can share that list with you guys or Tony can share that with you. But the point is, what I did was I rated every one of those steps, Tony, on a scale of 1 to 5. So 1 means I hate it. 5 means I love it. Okay. So it's I hate it. I don't like it. I like it. I really like it, or I love it. That's the 5-step system that I use. The same as Amazon. And many systems have that 5 different step rating. So I rated every single one of these 46, Tony. Okay, generate the lead. Oh, I like doing that. Going on the appointment, doing all the stuff that I wrote it all down, developing the CMA, all that stuff. And I rated them on a scale of 1 to 5. And I made it up in my mind. I didn't start doing this right away, but I made a firm affirmation, and I was convicted that I would only ever do 4s and 5s in my business. So if I either really liked it or loved it, I would do it. Everything else would be done by someone else. Okay. Because I was really tired of working and not loving what I was doing. You know what I'm saying? Right. And so what I found out, Tony, and this was through, after that, so many years later, I realized that of the 46 steps, there are only 5 in Texas that even require a license. And there were really only 2 that I needed to focus on. Okay. And I found out that if I focused on these 2 things, that would move the needle 90%. Okay. So in other words, there were 2 things of the 46 that would get, like, let's say if I wanted to make that year 600,000, for example, there were only 2 things that I had to do to get 90% of that 600 grand. Wow. And the other 44 steps will give me the other 10%. So what do you think I focused on, Tony? Just those 2 things.
Just those 2. Yeah.
And the 2 things are generate the lead, go on the appointment. Generate the lead, going on appointments. Generate the lead, going on appointments. So by the time I got, I was the #1 agent in Austin, my 4th year in the real estate business, I had 4 assistants. So I had 1 licensed assistant, and I had 3 unlicensed. And that's how I did it, Tony. It was that simple. Everything else on the 46-step system, I delegated. Even negotiating the offers, all that was done by an in-house agent that was just not really on my team. It was just a staffer that really didn't want to. They just wanted a job, and they were using their license with that, making pretty good money. So that's how I did it. You only focus on the things that matter, that will really move the needle. And the only other thing on a listing that would really move the needle, Tony, besides generating the lead and going to the appointment, is maybe negotiating offers, where they might pull me in because I really got to negotiate this one because it's a hard negotiate. But, I knew that if I just popped it back on the market, it would sell. And I knew how to get my sellers priced right and all the other stuff. So that's really, it's really that simple, Tony, finding out what are the things that really move the needle. And in every industry, Tony, I got to tell you, it's 80 to 90% of what you're doing. It's just going to be 2 or 3 things of all the steps that you write down that you should really be personally focused on.
Love it. Love it. And so when we transition into these 3 hours, what are we doing for these 3 hours? Right. So,
that's a great question.
Let's dig into that. And, and I think that we can pull it up here. I'm not sure if is this on the infographic here as well?
Yeah, it is. So thanks for reminding us to get back to this. So system business, and then it's really the next one. I mean, you've got a photographic memory apparently there, Tony. So you design your 3 hours a day, like schedule your daily success schedule so that you can master your 3 hours a day. And then you quadruple your income with 3 hours a day is step 7. So let's talk about designing your 3 hours a day. So if money is your big problem right now, you don't have enough, okay, then your 2 big picture priorities, write that down, big picture priorities, there are only 2, is going to be generating leads and going on appointments. Generating leads and going on appointments. If all you did was generate leads and go on appointments, you would have such a rocking business. Let me explain to you how this works. So, and by the way, there's a lot of scientific research that we did, or that I did for the book, and that it shows that the Homo sapiens brain is effective for 90 minutes. Okay. In other words, the maximum amount of time that we can really put full throttle energy into something is about 90 minutes. After that, we start to fizzle out. And so we have to take a break, do something different, and then come back to it. And so what I say is, split it up so you're spending 90 minutes every day doing lead generation in your lead generation bunker. And then you've got 90 minutes allocated to go on appointments. Literally, Tony, you could go on, and this is what I did for years. I went on about an appointment every single day. That was my goal. And that basically balances out to about 16. And by the way, I never worked Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I worked no nights and weekends. Okay. I'm just telling you guys how I did it. I'm not telling you how to run your business, but I didn't work Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and I only worked Monday through Thursday. So what I did was, and I worked on the 2 things, which I just told you what they were. And so I would have 1 appointment scheduled every day from the 90 minutes of activity that I did in my lead generation bunker every morning. And so that would put me on about 16 appointments per month, which would allow me to take anywhere from 12, 13, 14 listings a month. Okay. And that's how I basically did for years. People ask, man, how'd you, my last year in production, I did 153 transactions as a solo agent. and I didn't work more than 3 hours a day. And this is how I did it. It was basically once I generated the lead, Tony, and I went on the appointment and I got the signature on the listing agreement, I threw it over my shoulder. My team caught it and they took it all the way to the pay window. Okay.
Wow.
And I would explain to my clients, I say, have you ever flown on a commercial airplane? They say, yeah, we've flown before. I say, well, back in the day when you would fly, you say you're going from Austin to Miami, the first person that would greet you on the plane was the captain. He was there shaking your hand. She shook hands and everything. He or she. And then, it got weird after 9/11. So all that changed. But then the last person you would see on your way off the plane was the captain. Okay. Now, did you see the captain during the flight?
I sure hope not.
I don't want to see the captain during the flight.
I sure hope not.
I don't want to. So if you need peanuts, pretzels, a blanket, maybe a pillow, maybe a drink of water, maybe even an adult beverage, no problem. But the captain's not going to be. How would you feel if the captain was serving you peanuts and a blanket? I wouldn't feel
Hey, man, get back in the cockpit, man. What are you doing, brother? Are you?
And so I explain to my clients, I say, I'm in the cockpit. I'm taking this bird right here, your house. I'm taking it from here to sold. That's my job. I'm the captain. Now, you're not going to see me during the flight. In fact, we just signed the listing paperwork, and I'm kind of sad right now because you're not going to see me because I'm in the cockpit doing everything that I do, all the magic that I work to get this puppy sold. But my team, they're going to handle all the details, just like if you're on a commercial airliner. They're going to handle everything from here on out. And that's how I explained it to them. And they're like, they don't expect to see me. And when I call them, Tony, they're like, is something wrong? Why are you calling me? Is there a problem? They don't expect to see me. And it's almost akin to, because I have people all the time, the pushback, well, my clients will only work with me. That's like going into JCPenney and saying, look, I'm here to buy a suit, but I'm only going to deal with JC. Is he here? Well, no, that's just the name of the store. Well, if JCPenney can't wait on me, I'm not going to buy a suit. Well, you're not.
Yeah, you've set that expectation. Yeah, that's your fault. Yeah,
that's your fault. And there's a way to unravel that. And so as long as your clients realize that it's your high standards that they're getting, not, they're still getting you, but you're not going to be as prevalent during the transaction. So that's how I've always run my business. In fact, it's very interesting, Tony. I have a YouTube video out there on my YouTube channel with Horatio. So my wife and I got on a plane. We were headed to an event, and Horatio, it was actually ClickFunnels event.
Oh yeah.
I'm a big funnel hacker. And this guy sat on the same aisle as us, and he looked at me, and he looked again. He says, "Are you you're in real estate?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Are you Knolly Williams?" I said, "Yes, sir." I shook his hand. He said, "You sold my house." I said, "Oh, how you doing?" I never met the guy. Okay?
Right.
So I shook his hand and everything, and we had a good chat all the way over there. And so when we landed, I said, "Man, I got to do a video with this guy because this is what I've been preaching for years." And a lot of my coaching clients and students don't realize that this is the way it works. So I got with Horatio. We're in the baggage claim area, and I asked him this critical question. I asked him a bunch of questions, but I said, "Horatio, do you feel like me if I were?" I said, "Have we ever talked?" He said, "I think we talked once." And that was true. I talked with him once.
On the phone.
Back in the day, I would do all of my listing appointments just like we're doing right here. Okay. I would do them live. Okay. But I would do them all via Zoom or back then it was, we used other platforms. And I never met the guy. I never went to his house. Okay. So we wouldn't even go out to a property, Tony, unless we already had the listing paperwork signed and in our office. Now, a lot of people, I don't even teach that, Tony, because that's so far beyond what a lot of agents can even conceptualize.
Fathom, yeah.
Yeah, they can't. So I don't even go there, but that's how we did it. And so he'll tell you, and I said, Horatio, if I was personally involved in the transaction, do you feel like you would have got better service or in any way the transaction would have been better off or better? And he thought about it for a minute. He says, I can't see how it would have made any difference. Now it's a big blow to your ego to realize that you're not as important to the transaction as you think you are.
Yeah.
But it's a real nice stroke to your freedom.
and your pocketbook, right? When you
And your
realize that you can have that leverage,
yeah,
it's a great stroke to your wallet. So,
absolutely.
so and speaking of that, as we kind of get ready to close out,
Yeah,
what is the quadruple your income with 3 hours a day? So we talked
yeah, yeah,
about what
yeah.
to do there. How do
Sure.
you then quadruple that, 4x it?
So let me just speak real quick on the previous one. So
Sure.
if your big problem is money, then it's lead generation and appointments. Okay, going on appointments. But if your big problem is not money, and this is a lot of you listening right now, you're already making 400,000 a year. You're icon. You're making 600,000 a year, but you just are working all the time. Then the way you solve that is through leverage. Okay, so your two big picture priorities every day for 3 hours is going to be branding and leadership. Let me say it again, branding, you're the brand ambassador. That's your main role. And then you're going to be leading your team, leading your group, your organization. So those are going to be your two big picture priorities. And let me say one last thing on that, Tony,
Yeah.
because the 3 hours a day can be confusing for a lot of people. What I mean by 3 hours a day is even if you're working 8 hours a day, 3 hours of it is spent for the only two big picture priorities that move the needle. In other words, I don't care how many hours a day you work. You could work 10 hours a day, 12, hopefully not, or 8, doesn't matter. But 3 hours a day, you spend 90 minutes on one thing and 90 minutes on the other based on the two big picture priorities, based on if time or money is your biggest problem. Okay.
Right.
So you could actually work 3 hours a day because those 3 hours are going to move the needle 90% in your business, even within an 8 hour day. Okay, so but eventually what you'll find is that since all this other stuff is not really moving the needle, you'll start outsourcing it more and more to the point where the only two things that you actually do are the things that really move the needle. And then you're really just working 3 hours a day, you know.
Right.
So
Right.
let's talk about quadrupling your income. So there are specific things, there's only a handful of things that you can do to quadruple your income. And you can and you got to be thinking about this. You can raise your prices. So these are things I want you to be thinking about. Okay. How do I raise my prices? Well, how about if you start listing homes at a higher price range? What if you start focusing on luxury? I mean, Pete Middleton is doing a fantastic job in the leadership of our luxury division, and it is incredible. If you haven't looked at it, you owe it to yourself to look at our luxury division here at EXP. It's phenomenal. It's absolutely phenomenal. I can't say enough about it. But you could raise your prices. You can generate more transactions, okay, from the same clients. So how do you do that? Well, you can start by the way I like to do it is I like to identify my top 25 people that are going to give me multiple referrals a year, okay? And then I want to have a special program, a VIP program just for those individuals. We're going to have steak dinners once a quarter. Every quarter, we're going to have something with those 25. Okay. And these are usually people, Tony, that have a big sphere of influence themselves, like maybe your dentist, doctor friends. They could be in any profession really, but they're very well connected, maybe politically connected. And then you're basically going to them and saying, hey, I want to help this year. I want to help 80 families to realize the American dream. Or I want to help. Or what I like to do, Tony, is I like to anchor that into something. So for every 5 homes that I sell, I'm going to go ahead and put a well of good drinking water in Haiti, in a village in Haiti that we've identified. So now you've got, for every 5, you're going to put in one well. Maybe that well cost you $1,500. And then you say, okay, your goal is to do 80 transactions. Okay. So you do 80 divided by 5, right? And that's the number of wells. Say you're going to put in 16 wells. So then when you're making those calls, you're like, look, I want to put in 16 wells this year in this village in Haiti. Can you help me put in those 16 wells? And they say, well, sure. What do I need to do? Put your checkbook away. I'm not asking for a donation. For every 5 families that we help to realize the American dream this year, we're going to go ahead and do that. And I know that you're a dentist. You work with a lot of people. How many people do you think you could refer to me per year with all the people that you see every day? And they'll say, I could do probably 3, 4, whatever that number is. And you write it down, boom, boom, boom. And you create a whole program. I wrote that whole system out in this book right here. Successful listings, but that's a whole. And then there's a couple other ways. I don't want to get stuck on that, but there's actually 5 different ways Actually, the biggest way that you can quadruple your income is through leverage. By actually focusing on the only things that are moving the needle in your business. And now, guess what? And I call it, I'm going to say this real quick, Tony, because I know we're short on time. Ideas in the waiting room. Let me say it again. Ideas in the waiting room. It has been scientifically proven that it takes the same amount of time to process a $10,000 problem, or a $500 problem, or a $100,000 problem, or a $1 million problem. The reason why you're not focused on these $1 million ideas or $100,000 ideas, six and seven figure ideas for your business, is because you're stuck in the weeds. You're stuck putting out fires. You're stuck in a $500 problem. You got a problem with the inspection, and you're dealing with that kind of stuff. Yeah. And all of a sudden, because you're not focused on the only two things that matter in your business, you're focused on other things that don't really move the needle.
Right.
And now this big idea that you have that's going to generate maybe another 30 or 40 listings a year, it never gets its chance to present itself because your mind is weighed down. See, we only have so much mind share. And most people, Tony, are spending all their mind share on things that don't matter. There are things that are urgent, but they're not things that are important.
Right. Because they don't influence the end goal. They don't influence where you're trying to go with yourself and with the real estate business. So absolutely. Yeah. So, and if it's not just one of those two things that you really need to be keyed into and that are going to make 80% of the difference in your business, right? Yeah. Why bother with them, right? Outsource it, send it to someone else. Love that. Wonderful message. So how do folks get a hold of this book? I'm excited about it. I need a copy like yesterday. How do folks get a hold of it?
Well, you got, whether you're watching this, it's Wednesday today and you're watching this, live or after the fact, just go to 3hoursaday.com, 3hoursaday.com. And what I'm doing, Tony, because I really want to get the word out there, and pre-orders are very important, for McGraw Hill. So I'm giving away $297 of free resources to individuals that pre-order the book before it releases. It does release July 25. And if you're watching this after the fact, maybe this is 2030 when you're watching this, I don't know. You can still go there, 3hoursaday.com, and I'll probably have some kind of freebie for you. But I'm giving you the blueprint, I'm giving you a master class and several other things to get you started so that you'll kind of understand the concepts for when you get your hands on the book.
Love that. So pre-orders, go to this website, and there'll be a link down in below as well. But I'm just kind of scrolling through this. I think that this is absolutely incredible. Now, this is a game changer. We haven't even talked about some of the, I guess I'm not one of the special people that have had a chance to read it and endorse it yet. But it looks like you got some incredible people that I know that I'm a little bit familiar with on here as well. Talk us through some of these incredible people that you did think was important enough to get a book early and read it.
Yeah, and so they only gave me a limited number of endorsements, and I got more than they wanted, and so they cut even some of those. But so we've got Glenn Sanford that absolutely loves it and has endorsed it. Tom Hopkins, considered the #1 sales trainer in America for many, many years, for decades actually. He's endorsed the book. He absolutely loves it. Ann Malum, she has a net worth of over $100 million. A great entrepreneur. She endorses the book. Don Hobbs. You've heard of Hobbs Herder. He was also the president of Success Magazine and Success Enterprises. And Don also ran Jim Rohn's organization for many years. He was the president of the Jim Rohn organization. He endorses it, and on and on and on.
So, Jay Kender, we got Brent Gove. I mean, my gosh.
Yeah, Tristan's on here, and he's the current chief marketing officer for Success Magazine and Enterprises. And the list goes on. And so it really is a big idea, but it's an idea whose time has come. And so my vision for you is that you can take more time for your family, more time for your loved ones, more time for the things that you really hold dear in your life. I'll say this real quick, Tony. There was a book written by a lady that was like a hospice nurse. I think it was in Australia, and she worked only with the dying, okay, in their last 12 weeks of life. And the #1 regret, okay, was I wish I'd had the courage to live a life that was true to myself, not the life others wanted for me. Okay. And in the book, you're going to learn how to do that. And the number 2 regret that people had on their deathbed, you'll never even guess what this is. And this is a big, Bronnie Ware is the author of that book called The 5 Regrets of the Dying, the 5 biggest regrets of the dying. The number 2 regret was I wish I hadn't worked so hard. And the truth of the matter is, I don't want you to have any regrets on your deathbed, and to realize that you actually do have an easier way. The hustle and grind is necessary for a season, but it doesn't have to be a life sentence. I want for you that your business become fun and easy.
Freedom. That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
So thank you so much. Again, give us the website one more time.
Yeah, 3hoursaday.com. And if you get stuck on that, it's the number 3hoursaday.com. You can always fall back on my website, which is knolly.com, Knolly. And it's going to be right there on the front page. And I thank you, Tony. I thank you for what you are doing, what you've done in my life. I thank you for what you're doing for our agents. I think you're running the biggest, group at EXP, if not second biggest. I'm not sure if Florida beats us a little bit or California might, but we're big, over 10,000, and you're the leader of that. And I appreciate and applaud what you're doing. And even the fact that you're making time here on a Wednesday, the middle of your week, and I know you got a lot of busy things going on. I appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much.
Well, absolutely. Thank you so much. Callie's got us by a hair, but it's only for a season.
We got him.
We got him. So anyway, thank you so much.
They're all moving to Texas anyway. So
that's right. Exactly. It's only a matter of time. So thank you so much, Knolly. Everybody else, y'all know how to reach me. EXP agents, hit me on Workplace Chat. That's the best way. Everybody else, hit me on LinkedIn. I would love to hear from you. Love to help you however I can, or get you a copy of the book. Thank y'all so much. Have a wonderful day. Love y'all.